Right, we are good to go. We are good to go. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Ben Bowman YouTube channel. I hope you're good. I hope you had a good weekend. We are here today to look at Tottenham against QPR. Yesterday, Spurs are 2 for 2 in pre-season. Another win yesterday. A big test for Tottenham, really. Hearts, the poorer opposition that we faced in that game. Obviously, we could learn things from it. We did a video on the channel which did really well, so I'm very grateful for everyone that enjoyed that video, that live that we did. And we're doing another one again today to go through the QPR game. It was a better test for Tottenham against a better opposition. Marti Cifuentes has got QPR playing really well coached. We're going to go through a lot of things in this game. We're going to go through how Tottenham's set up, how that changed in the second half. Again, Ange Postecoglou played two entirely different teams in each half, just like he did in the Hearts game. We're going to go through some individual performances that I really enjoyed. We're going to go through some good. We're going to go through some bad. We're going to go through Lucas Bergwall. We're going to go through Alfie Devine, who really impressed me. And we're going to talk about Brennan Johnson as well, because I said in my last video, and I've said it in a TikTok video as well, go and follow me on TikTok and make sure you subscribe to the channel as well on here, that I think next season is going to be a really big year for Brennan Johnson, but I think there's some problems in that Spurs front line that need to be ironed out as soon as possible, really, that have kind of carried over from last season a little bit as well. Hello, everyone in the chat. We've got Brooklyn, we've got Sui, we've got Bosco, we've got Peter Gordon as well. Make sure you subscribe if you aren't already. Thank you very much for joining in the chat. I've enjoyed doing these lives. You know, I haven't done them before. This is my second one. So thanks to everybody who showed love on the first one. We're over 1,000 subscribers as well now on YouTube, which is crazy. You know, I wanted to get to 1,000 subs before Tottenham's first Premier League game, which is against Leicester on the 19th of August, I believe. I wanted to get there before then. It's the 21st of July today, and we've smashed that out of the park. So I'm very grateful for that. Where should we start then? So this is how Tottenham set up yesterday. This was the starting 11 that played in the first half, where Brandon Austin in goal, Archie Gray and Skip again at centre-back, Pedro Porro, Jamie Donnelly and Bissouma again in that sort of 2-5-3 shape. We had Bissouma, Bergval and Sarr in midfield, which was a midfield that I was really excited about. And it was cut short, unfortunately, with Bergval going off injured in the 22nd minute, but there was still so much to pick out from Lucas Bergval's performance yesterday that we want to get into here. Brennan Johnson, Son, Werner was the front three. And then we had this 11 in the second half, if my Chrome will let me show it. I'm not sure it will, unfortunately. Here we go. We had Luka Gunter in goal, who I thought was super impressive. I'm really impressed with Spurs' youth goalkeepers so far in pre-season. We had Emerson and Phillips as the centre-back pairing in the second half. George Abbott, Jed Spence, Alfie Devine, who was really impressive, who we'll go into in more detail. James Maddison, Dane Kulusevski, who came on for Bergval in the 20-odd minute or so, but played until around the 60th, 70th before we made some more subs. Solomon, who, again, I'm struggling to be convinced by. Will Lancashire, again, some really good moments from him. And Mikey Moore, that guy, Mikey Moore, again, absolutely superb yesterday. Let's go into Tottenham's average positions, because I think this was really interesting, and we're going to talk about a couple of players in a bit more detail as well. Where are we? Okay, here we go. Average positions from the first half for Tottenham. Here you can see Basuma, Bergval and Sarr bunched up nicely in that midfield. Gray and Skip really allowing Porro and Donnelly, Porro especially, to kind of go and join in the midfield. Jamie Donnelly, there's a few sloppy passes in midfield yesterday, but again, I thought he had a pretty impressive display. Left back, Sonny dropping that little bit deeper, allowing Brennan Johnson and Werner to kind of hug those touchlines and get in behind, allow him to link up the play. I've actually been quietly impressed with some of Sonny's link-up play during pre-season. Everyone keeps talking about the fact that we need a striker, we need a target man. There's going to be a video on the channel next week talking about Tottenham's striker situation, so keep an eye out for that. There's going to be some of your favourite YouTubers and podcasters from the Spurs world in that as well. And then we have a look at the substitutions, and it's a bit more spread out, really. Obviously, Veliz and Scarlett came on in the second half with Lancashire starting. If we pop Lancashire in there as well, you can see that he floated around quite nicely. If we go back to this... Yeah, Mikey Moore. Solomon was very much hugging the touchline, whereas Mikey Moore was definitely allowed to drift inside that little bit more. We definitely saw that yesterday. And we saw it again against Hearts as well. We saw it for his goal, and we saw it for a chance that he had that we'll show in the screenshots very shortly. Let me just open up the chat again here. We've got a question here from Sui in the chat, which we'll come on to shortly. I'm not going to go into Archie Gray in too much detail in this video, but Sui asked a question, do you think Gray can cover 6 with Højbjerg leaving? I was impressed with his defensive awareness against Hearts. Obviously, we got the news this morning that Højbjerg will be leaving to Marseille. It's a funny one, that. Obviously, it's not a great deal financially from Spurs. 1 year left on his contract. We've only got around £13 million for him. Apparently, Alistair Gold has come out and said it's more of a loan with an obligation to buy of around 19-20 million. So that's not too bad. That's some kind of news that's come through this afternoon. And it's time to move these players on. But I definitely think Gray can cover the 6. Let's go and talk about Yves Bissouma then, while we're on the subject of the 6. Because I thought he had a really impressive display yesterday. We'll talk about his goal as well once we come to that. These were Bissouma's stats from the game yesterday. 1 goal, 24 out of 25 passes completed, 3 out of 3 successful dribbles, 3 passes into the final third, 1 accurate long ball, 1 interception, 2 ball recoveries, 4 out of 5 ground duels, 1, and 1 foul, 1. I thought it was much more like it from Yves Bissouma yesterday. Obviously, the thumbnail on the video, as you can see when you joined this, was back to his best. Obviously, it's hard to really say that with it being pre-season. Ange Postecoglou yesterday, there was quite a funny moment where Bissouma was being interviewed by the Spurs TV guy. He was talking about his goal, and Ange Postecoglou said, "Oh, it's only pre-season, Biss." Sort of made that joke to him a little bit. I think that means that obviously you have to take his performance with a pinch of salt a little bit, but I think that shows that Ange Postecoglou knows the levels that are inside Yves Bissouma. Obviously, we saw a bit of a drop-off towards the end of the season last year. He's someone that I think Ange Postecoglou loves and really wants to get the best out of. And I think if we can get Bissouma anywhere near to that level that we saw in the first half of the season, I don't think Spurs need to go out and buy that number 6. 1, because I don't think the market is that great. And 2, because I think he's just superb. And we saw that yesterday. Yves Bissouma in the games acts like he's the best player on the pitch at a 5-a-side pitch. And that's exactly what we saw yesterday with his goal. And we'll come on to that shortly, but I want to talk about, first of all, I want to talk about some of the football that we played yesterday, because I thought in the first half, I thought we played some really, really lovely stuff, some really nice build-up play that we saw playing out from the back. And I think one thing that we've learned in both pre-seasons under Ange Postecoglou, especially this one so far, is how much the young players have kind of bought into this style of play. Spurs are at their best when they're playing 1 or 2 touch passing, and we saw that in so many moves yesterday. Let me just move if we need to. This was a chance in the first half where Son had a effort saved by the goalkeeper. That was one thing that frustrated me yesterday, and we'll come on to it a little bit, was the kind of lack of clinicality or that lack of clinicalness in that final third that we saw. But we saw some really good approach play. This was a lovely move. Sarr, a little dink into Pedro Porro, obviously occupying that space, getting forward from right back. Sarr, lovely clip ball into him. Pedro Porro, lovely first time little touch into Brennan Johnson, who skins his man, gets past him. Great low ball into the penalty area, and Son comes onto it and has the shot saved by the goalkeeper. I'm going to talk about Brennan Johnson in a little bit more detail, because there were things that frustrated me yesterday, but that was when he got that crossing right. And if he can get that crossing right, more often than not, Spurs have got a really dangerous winger on their hands. Obviously saved by the goalkeeper. Again, this was lovely. Sarr receiving it kind of on the half turn there. I thought Sarr was excellent in that first half yesterday. Receiving the ball here. Just little turn. Takes the midfielder out of the game. Lovely ball into Pedro Porro. Lovely dink ball from Pedro Porro all the way up to Johnson. Again, who gets into that area. Ball across the penalty area, and Son again just can't quite convert. We know Sonny is one of the most clinical strikers in the Premier League. We've seen that with his XG, those underlying numbers, so I'm not too worried about Son's lack of finishing yesterday. Obviously, we haven't seen a goal from him in pre-season yet, but that will come. This was what impressed me most. This was the best move Spurs put together in the whole game, and it came from 1 or 2 touch passing in our own final third under pressure. The ball comes in here from the QPR winger, Archie Gray, who had a good game yesterday. We're not going to go into Gray into too much detail, but I thought he was pretty solid again at centre-back. Reads it, gets in there. Obviously has a little bit of help from Pape Matar. Let me just move myself so you can see that a little bit better. Sarr nips in there to just help Gray out. And then Archie Gray can play. Sarr one-touch ball, out to Porro. Lovely ball down the line. And this was Dejan Kulusevski. Obviously, you can't quite see him here. He's not quite in shot. You can see just the bottom of him. This is the move where Dejan Kulusevski plays that lovely ball with the outside of his foot through to Werner. And, yeah, less said about the finish, the better. But, again, that approach play from Spurs was lovely in that first half. Really, really nice. I really enjoyed Dejan Kulusevski in that number 8 role again. That's kind of where he played in midfield. We're going to talk about Kulusevski again in a little bit more detail in a moment, because there's another chance that I want to talk about as we get into the second half. And we'll come on to that very shortly. Ashley Phillips, again, good ball into Maddison, who came on. I thought Maddison was good. I've been impressed by Maddison in pre-season so far, that ability to sort of float into those pockets in between the lines, etc. Playing on the half turn, that's where he's at his best, etc. Gets the ball here, turns, dribbles up towards the edge of the penalty area. And you can see Will Lancashire there just waiting to make that move. It's a lovely, delicate ball from Maddison. Disguised pass through to Will Lancashire. Lancashire goes around the goalkeeper and can't quite convert from that tight angle. Again, let me know in the chat, were you impressed with Will Lancashire in that second half? I was. Obviously only got 20 minutes or so. He got that goal in the first game. We didn't quite see that from him, although he had that chance there yesterday. I was so impressed with Will Lancashire with his back to goal, that hold-up play, that ability to get tight to the centre-backs, pin them and bring other players into play. A couple of people in the chat here. Maz, Son has missed sitters recently. Yeah, I'm not too worried about Sonny and his finishing, to be honest. They're close range finishing. The goalkeeper makes himself big from the first one. The second one, he's got to be very delicate with it, and he just doesn't quite put it in the back of the net. Darren and Doing, the best Spurs podcast in all the land. Go and subscribe to Darren and Doing. Brennan going to cook this season. I genuinely believe that. We're going to come on to Brennan in a minute in more detail, because there were a few things that I was a bit more frustrated about, but we can come on to those. Let's carry on with this. Spurs turn the ball over. Ball gets fed into Kulusevski. Again, this is the benefit of kind of having a left footer, I think, who is so creative, either in that midfield three or in that front three, because they just open up the pitch, especially from these kind of angles. Lets the ball run. You can see Mikey Moore there. We talked about Mikey Moore when we looked at the average positions in terms of him drifting inside from that right-hand side into central areas, which obviously we don't see as much from Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson is going to hug the touchline and get in behind. Mikey Moore, unfortunately, just couldn't finish it off, but Kulusevski just puts that on a plate for him. Takes a little touch to set himself, and again, it's a good save from the goalkeeper. Mikey Moore yesterday, I thought, was so bright against Spurs in that 1 or 2 touch passing in that second half. Some of the moves that we put together, those little touch and spins around the fullback, so impressed with him. So impressed. What should we go on to next? Let's talk about the goals before we come on to some more of the negative stuff I thought from yesterday, because I think there were some negative things that we learned, but again, stuff that can be ironed out as well. Again, I want to talk about Alfie, Devine and Lucas Bergal in some more detail as well in terms of some positives. But let me know in the chat. Maz in the chat there. Kulu has insane vision, 100%. Werner missing that chance should not be surprising. Did it every game for Chelsea and Leipzig last season. Yeah, it was frustrating. He just gets himself into a good area. If you're talking about the one from Kulusevski where he plays that ball around the corner, absolutely. It's quite frustrating, for sure. Just really kind of lacks that composure in the final third. We'll come on and talk about that in a little bit more detail in another area. This was the goal. This was Yves Bissouma's first goal. Pape Matar, love it when he just puts the ball on his foot, or kind of gets the ball under his foot there, puts his foot on top of the ball, dictates the play. I thought Sarr was so impressive. Again, nice ball into Bissouma. Bissouma, see you later, drops the shoulder. Fantastic from Bissouma yesterday. And again, I talked about it earlier in the stream. Like, I think Yves Bissouma, when he's at his best, he almost plays like he's the best player on a five-a-side pitch, just with that confidence and swagger. And sometimes that might be to his detriment because it looks a bit casual. But when he's playing at his best, absolutely superb. Drop the shoulder. Again, little ball into Kulusevski. Kulusevski drifting in across that kind of front three or that kind of final third in those zones from right to left. What I was so impressed with the Kulusevski here, much like we saw in the Brennan Johnson goal against Hearts with that little flick around the corner, it's a one-touch pass. Back into Bissouma, glides in unmarked, goes around the goalkeeper and slots it. First ever goal for Spurs. Again, not a competitive goal, so it doesn't count. And again, Ange Postecoglou kind of rived him about it yesterday. You want to see more of that, 100%. And he goes and gives the corner flag a little kick yesterday and celebrated nicely. But Bissouma earned that. Again, superb first half display. Him and Sarr I thought were excellent, along with Lucas Bergvall, who we'll come on to talk about in a sec. But first we're going to talk about the second goal. James Maddison, who I thought had a good second half, floating in these pockets. Little ball into Solomon there. I'm not sure whether Solomon means this dummy. I feel like he's trying to flick that into, I think that's George Abbott there, who kind of gets up from fullback. And then Mikey Moore, lovely ball with the outside of his foot. Again, I highlighted this in the last stream when we talked about the Hearts game. Look how many players in the box there. You've got George Abbott, or that's Solomon there. You've got George Abbott, you've got Alejo Villiers, you've got James Maddison on the edge, and then you've got Dane Scarlett rushing in. And again, I think this is going to be a big pre-season for Dane Scarlett because of the emergence of Will Lancashire, Spurs' best player in the under-21s last year. Obviously, the PL2 player of the season, scored a lot of goals. And obviously, well, we've seen what's happened to Troy Parrott. He's been sold and moved on. Now it's a great move for him. But I do think Dane Scarlett will almost be looking over his shoulder a little bit at Will Lancashire and potentially Alejo Villiers, who again, I'm sort of yet to be convinced about. Want to see more from him as well. But yeah, I was impressed with Dane Scarlett, and again, he got that goal, which I think was so important for him. Ben J in the chat there, unpopular opinion, but I have Kulu better than Maddison. I think they're both great options. I think Kulusevski offers something that Maddison doesn't, but again, you can say that vice versa. I think Kulusevski, I spoke about this in a TikTok video. Again, go and follow the TikTok, very close to 25k. And again, I spoke about it earlier on the stream if you weren't here. We've reached 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so I'm so grateful for that. So thank you to everyone who supported. And make sure to like the stream as well. I talked about Kulusevski and what his kind of role is going to be next season. Do you see him more as that winger? Do you see him more as that creator? I think he's going to be so valuable in that midfield three. Again, we saw it a lot last season. I spoke about this in the last stream. The Spurs making substitutions in-game, whether Kulusevski would start on that right-hand side, and then Brennan Johnson would come on at half-time. Kulusevski would drop back into that number 8 role on that right-hand side, more advanced, and we'd see that really unlock the opposition defence, and I think we're going to see a lot of that. So I'm not too worried, and I don't want to get too caught up in Maddison or Kulu, who's better, who's more suited to that number 10. I think we've got two great options on our hands there, and again, if we add someone like a Berriese as well, potentially, then that would be great. And Sui's touched on it in the chat here. Did you see Paul O'Keefe's tweet about Spurs wanting to bring 3 in? Which positions do you think it should be? I'm going to talk about that in another video on my TikTok just after this, so go and check my TikTok out again. But I think it will be an attacker. I think it'll be a midfielder. Obviously, we've seen those Jacob Ramsey links intensify a little bit, and maybe a defender. But I'm going to talk about that in a bit more detail over there. Back to this then. So we've touched on the goals. We've touched on some of the build-up play. Let's talk about Lucas bloody Bergvall, because I thought he was absolutely superb yesterday in the cameo that he did on the pitch. Obviously unfortunate to go off injured. I think it's just a precaution. And Postecoglou's come out and said after the game it's nothing too serious. Obviously, so Spurs hasn't really had an injury really. Again, he's so young in his career. You can't take that into consideration too much. But I loved his performance yesterday. I thought it was better almost in his first 20 minutes than he was against Hearts, even though I really enjoyed that performance. Playing out from the back, Brandon Austin. Again, I want to talk about the fact that I thought I was really impressed with Spurs' youth goalkeepers, Brandon Austin and Luka Gunter, both making really important saves, both playing out from the back really well, especially Austin in the first half, where we had more of that first half. Second half, for periods, we were more up against it. QPR, like I said, a better team than Hearts, and that's to be expected. That's to be expected, and it was a good, intense run-out for Tottenham in pre-season. Bergvall wants the ball here. Brandon Austin, again, he's got two QPR men pressing him, kind of narrowing the angles, although Bergvall drifts into this pocket on the edge of the D. Wants the ball, demands it. Again, getting closed down. Two QPR players conversion on him. Again, kind of head over here looking at Pedro Porro, but just plays that ball. Disguised pass, takes out two players into the feet of Pape Matar. This is a cheat code for Tottenham. When you've got players in midfield like Pedro Porro, like Pape Matar, like Yves Bissouma, like James Maddison, who are so good at receiving the ball on the half turn, those little disguised passes under pressure are going to be a cheat code for Spurs. And that was what Lucas Bergvall was so good at, especially to Pape Matar. And that's why I loved that balance of that midfield yesterday, because you've got Pape Matar, who's a runner, and that has just taken 3 or 4 players out of the game there with that one little pass around the corner. And when you've got Pape Matar, who can drive forward with the ball, as he does in that instance, I think that's such a valuable skill to have in that midfield with Lucas Bergvall. Someone who just has that disguise, has that finesse. We saw it. I highlighted it in a move in the last game. Lucas Bergvall picking the ball up off the goalkeeper, pinging the ball around the corner into Alfie, into Tyrese Hall, I think it was, gets the ball back and opens up the pitch. And we have that chance where Dane Scarlett goes through on and goal in the last few seconds of the Hearts game. Now, Archie Gray, let me move myself over here. Archie Gray plays the ball into Lucas Bergvall. Takes it over to the right-hand side here. And again, you can see, wants to play this ball in between the lines and plays it into Pedro Porro, who again is so comfortable receiving the ball on the half-turn. This was a lovely bit of jinking skill from Bergvall. Again, just with that last move in terms of those passes, just really opening up the pitch. His vision is something I've been so impressed with. Bergvall here, under pressure. Gets away from, I think who's that? I can't remember the QPR player that was. Little drop of the shoulder, and again, feints, and I think you think he's almost going to go back and play the easy pass. Just that little drop of the shoulder, that little jink that he's so good at, so good in his locker, so kind of quick on the balls of his feet. Lucas Bergvall got that low centre of gravity. And again, he's got that feint there where you think he's going to come back inside and maybe just play that simple pass back. But again, he feints back inside and plays that ball into Jamie Donnelly, who pops a one-touch pass off to Heung-Min Son. Again, let me just move myself over here so you can see that a little bit better. Donnelly, little one-touch, pops it off into Son. And then Bergvall sees it here. He attacks this space. Donnelly, little pop-off into Son. Bergvall attacks the space and again can play that little ball in the channel to Brennan Johnson there, who can get that low ball across into the box. Yves Bissouma here, head up. Lucas Bergvall, again, the ball from Bissouma is into the feet of Son. Bergvall straight away wants to receive that. You can see Werner on his bike there. Bergvall, perfect weight of pass. Werner, good run in behind. And again, it's that low cross where you can see Brennan Johnson arriving late at the back post. Again, Bergvall's ability to find that weight of pass, drift into those areas where he's going to be able to open up defences, I think it's going to be so key for Tottenham again, especially with these kind of chances. We've seen it with 2 chances in a row where Bergvall's created openings for cutbacks or those low balls across the area, and with Spurs score a lot of goals from those positions with the movement of those wide players. Final one, I think, here from Bergvall before he went off injured. or maybe we have one more to show you. And get involved in the chat as well, guys. Let me know what you thought of Lucas Bergval's performance yesterday. Bergval again here. I think this is another example of his ability to drop the shoulder. So again, under pressure, drops the shoulder again, gets away from him, but the QPR man continues to press. And again, it looks like he's going to lose it. But again, he's got that low-key kind of strength that I think we almost see from, whisper it quietly, Martin Odegaard a little bit. In terms of that, I'm not going to be bullied off the ball. I'm going to jink, I'm going to get away from you, but I'm not going to be bullied off it. And I think we saw that from Lucas Bergval yesterday. While we're on the vein of talking about players in a positive light, I want to talk about Alfie Devine because he's really, really impressed me in these last couple of games. Came on in both second halves. Been super impressed with Alfie. Played in a various amount of positions yesterday. Kind of played as that 6, played as that 8, got forward a little bit here. Got a couple of examples here of line-breaking passes. Again, you can see Kulusevski wanting to receive the ball there. Alfie... You can see young players sometimes, again, wanting to be safe, just wanting to not make mistakes. Just play that ball out to Mikey Moore over there. Again, he's got Jed Spence and he's got Kulusevski there. That's not an easy pass, but he just waits for the gap to open up. Kulusevski makes that movement, leaves the space for Spence, and he just plays that ball in between the lines. I wish, this is something I want to improve for later streams. I want to be able to almost kind of draw these lines and draw these arrows to kind of help illustrate it a little bit, but hopefully you can see what I mean. Alfie Devine wraps his foot around it, good pace on the ball, and that was again something that I like with Lucas Bergval. Great pace on the ball. It's a good ball there into Jed Spence. Oh, hang on a minute, we lost that there, sorry. And then Spence, again, I was impressed with Spence yesterday. I think we need to be a little bit wary of going a little bit too early on him. Obviously, I want to see more in pre-season. I think he's definitely landed a seat on that pre-season tour. I think we'll find out the squad tomorrow that will fly to Japan and Korea. Yeah, Spence opens his body up, and again, a chance there for Spurs. Alfie again here, just scanning. Brings the ball forward a little bit, and again, takes out a few QPR players with this ball into Maddison. Again, like I said with Bergval when I was talking about Sarr and Porro and Bissouma, when you've got midfielders that are so comfortable receiving the ball on the half turn, that is Maddison's bread and butter. So good at that. Devine plays that ball, splits the defence. And again, one more example I want to show from Alfie here. I think I've got a couple more to show actually before we move on to Brennan Johnson, and we're going to finish up the stream talking about Johnson. Alfie Devine, QPR got the ball here. And again, Spurs had to do a lot of good defensive work yesterday. Had to really kind of dig in because QPR were playing on the front foot in that second half. They looked like they could nick a goal. Alfie tracks the runner and gets back, makes that tackle. Final thing I want to show with Alfie, again, kind of range of his passing, almost coming into that deep line midfielder, that number 6. He's got the long pass in him as well. And that's a perfect touch from Spence. And Spurs, again, you've got runners in behind, you've got Moore there, and you've got Veliz. Final thing I want to talk about that just frustrated me a little bit yesterday, just frustrated me. And again, let me know what you thought of the stream in the chat, guys. Let me know what you thought of Alfie Devine's performance. Is he someone that you would loan out? Is he someone that you would keep at Tottenham next season? Because I think there's so much more to come from him. I'm super impressed. Let me just bring myself over here because we're going to be focused on the right channel. Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson and Werner. Spurs are just lacking that kind of clinical nature in that front third, as I talked about. You can't quite see Johnson here. He's a little bit out of the picture. Let me see if I can just drag him into frame. Yeah, perfect. There we go. Johnson here. Let's bring it back. Spurs have a throw-in. Set the scene. Spurs have a throw-in here. Pedro Porro. Jamie Donnelly bursts into that space. Again, great from him. Allowed that freedom in that inverted fullback role to drift inside. Ball comes into Donnelly. Love that from him. So composed on the ball. Bringing it forward. Again, great ball into the feet of Johnson. Does the hard bit. Draws the defender in and bursts past him. And he's got so much space there. And let me just move myself down again so you can see Werner coming in at the back post. Spurs will score a lot of goals like this next season if they can just sort this out. Sort that weight of cross out. Sort those kind of timings of the run out from both of those wingers, Werner and Johnson, because I really think they can be a bit of a cheat code for Spurs. But that cross is so wayward from Johnson. Again, you can't really see the ball that clearly here. Werner's got into a perfect position there. If you can just keep that low and hard across the deck. And we saw Johnson sort that out. We saw him correct that in the game, which was good. This was, I think, the 15th minute. Again, we saw him get that weight of pass right because he set up 2 chances for Son and... 2 chances for Son, actually. They both were, weren't they? Just very wayward with the cross, unfortunately. But yeah, that's it, guys. Let me know what you thought in the chat. Let me know what you thought of our performance. Let me know in the comments after the video as well who your man of the match was. And again, thanks so much for getting involved in the streams. Really enjoying doing these. I'll be doing these after every pre-season game, so you guys can look forward to those. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Let's go through some quick questions before we got to jump. Kulu's a false 9. I like that idea. Peter Gordon, again, following that up. Hate to mention the scum, but Kulu can be our Havertz in a similar role. I said that in a TikTok video, a few months back. 100%. Bergal has nice hair. Does have nice hair. Doesn't go out of place, does it? I like that we saw more of Spence defensively against QPR. Again, yes, very important. I actually want to shout out Emerson Morale because I think he is leaving. I thought he played really well yesterday at the back, especially when he got that kick. Peter Gordon, again, gives Spence a chance. Spence is a must the way he's been playing. Maybe something tweaked in Genoa. Potentially, yeah. Potentially. Hopefully we see more from him. I do want to see more on the pre-season tour. Hopefully he gets that opportunity. And that is where we will leave it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks so much for getting involved in the stream. Let me know what you thought in the game in the comments below. Share it with your mates who you think might like these videos. And yeah, that is what we learned from Tottenham 2, QPR 0. And we are